What happens when a simple morning interview suddenly becomes one of the most uncomfortable moments in TV history? When accusations start flying, tensions get high, and a Hollywood superstar finally decides she has had enough. That is exactly what happened during what was supposed to be a light and friendly chat on the Today Show. And trust me, you will not believe how this gets out of control. Before we get into the story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and leave a comment telling me what you think about celebrity interviews that go wrong. Now let us step into this chaos. The stage was prepared for what producers believed would be another fun and harmless segment. Catherine Zeta Jones had arrived looking absolutely gorgeous, wearing a cream-colored blazer that caught the bright studio lights perfectly. The room energy felt warm, cheerful, almost party-like. Kathie Lee Gifford and Craig Ferguson were already seated, exchanging playful jokes as they waited for their guest to join them on the couch. Craig leaned back with his usual mischievous grin and said, "Well, well, look who chose to bless us today. Catherine Zeta Jones, everyone, you know. I was just telling Kathie Lee earlier that you and I go way back, right?" Catherine settled into her seat, crossing her legs with natural grace and offering a polite smile. "Do we?" "I probably erased that from my mind," she joked, and the audience laughed. It seemed like the perfect start to a perfect interview. Kathie Lee jumped in with her usual upbeat excitement. "Catherine, you look absolutely stunning. Seriously, what is your secret? Because I need to know, and I need to know today." "Well, Kathie Lee, I could tell you, but then I might have to get rid of you," Catherine teased with a wink. More laughter from the crowd. Everything seemed easy, smooth, and almost too perfect. Craig leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "So, Catherine, we need to talk about your new project. People are buzzing about it everywhere. But before we talk about that, forgive me if this is too direct, but there has been some talk going around. You know how Hollywood works, right?" Everyone whispers. Catherine's smile faded just a little. "Not a lot, just enough to notice if you were watching closely. Rumors, Craig. There are always rumors. That is just part of show business. You learn to ignore most of it." Kathie Lee noticed the air shift. She tried to bring the conversation back to lighter ground. "Of course, but you have always handled things so gracefully. I do not know how you do it. The pressure, the eyes watching you non-stop. It must be exhausting." "It can be," Catherine said, her voice steady. "But if you have good people around you, people you trust, that makes all the difference." Craig was not ready to let go. He had that look. The look that means someone is about to test a boundary. Yes. Trust. Very important. Speaking of trust, there is something I heard, and I am not saying it is true, but I heard it from a pretty solid source. Actually, more than one. And they were saying that during your last film set, there were some, how do I say this carefully, some issues. Catherine's posture hardened slightly. "Not much, but clear enough." "Issues, Craig. Every set has issues. Long hours. Creative arguments. That happens. Sure. Craig nodded like he understood. But this was not like normal tension, right? The word used was unprofessional. "And look, I am just asking because people want to know. They see you as this polished star, and then they hear these stories, and it feels confusing." Kathie Lee's eyes widened. She glanced at Craig, then at Catherine. You could almost see her mind racing, trying to stop this before it explodes. "Craig, I think what you mean is that Catherine is a serious artist, and sometimes her passion might be misunderstood." "Right, but Craig was not done." "No, Kathie Lee, I mean behavior. I heard that there were some loud fights, some demands that were, let us say, a little extreme." Catherine's jaw tightened. She sat up straighter. "Craig, I do not know what you think you heard, but I have always behaved with professionalism. If someone has a problem with how I work, they can come talk to me, instead of whispering behind my back and feeding gossip to talk show hosts." The audience, which was laughing earlier, went almost silent instantly. You could feel the room get colder. Kathie Lee laughed nervously, trying to soften things. "Wow, this got serious fast, Catherine." "Nobody is questioning you. Craig just likes stirring things up. It is his thing." Craig raised both hands in fake surrender. "Hey, I just ask questions. That is my role, to ask what people want answers to. And trust me, people are talking. They want to know the truth." Catherine turned to him, her eyes sharp. "And what exactly do you think the truth is, Craig? Because it sounds like you already decided I am guilty. You decided these unnamed sources are telling the truth. Have you ever thought maybe they have their own reasons?" Craig shrugged. That annoying casual shrug. When several people say the same thing, it is hard to ignore. I am not saying you are a bad person, Catherine. I am only saying that when we are under stress, sometimes we are not at our best. My best self. Catherine's voice was rising now, her calm slipping. You do not know anything about my best self, Craig. You have no idea what it takes to do what I do, to stay in this industry this long. You sit here making jokes and asking trap questions, and you think that gives you insight into who I am? Kathie Lee touched Catherine's arm. Catherine, love, let us breathe. We all are getting worked up. Craig maybe switch topics. Talk about her new project. But Craig refused to pull back. No, this matters. People deserve honesty. Catherine, you live in the public eye. People will ask hard questions. If there are stories about difficult behavior, then yes, that belongs in discussion. Catherine suddenly stood up, moving away from Kathie Lee's touch. A hostile work environment? Are you serious? Craig, you are accusing me of creating a hostile set on live TV. Gossip, rumors, stories from people who do not even put their names to their claims. Cameras were shaking now, trying to capture every second of what was turning into a meltdown. Producers in the control room were probably freaking out, unsure whether to cut to ads or let it roll. Kathie Lee stood too, stepping between them like a physical shield. Okay. Everyone calm down, she said, her voice strained. Catherine, nobody is accusing you. Craig is just being Craig, asking dramatic questions to get reactions. Catherine looked at her, hurt in her eyes mixing with anger. Is that what you think this is, Kathie Lee? Just dramatic questions? Because this feels like a setup. Did you know he was going to ask this? Did you both plan this? Kathie Lee looked shocked. What? No. Catherine, I had no idea. I thought this was going to be fun. Craig was next to stand, and now all three were standing, the couch ignored. Craig folded his arms, his face not playful anymore. Catherine, come on. No one is taking you down. I am doing my job. You are grown. You know how this works. If you cannot handle tough questions, maybe you should not be doing press tours. That was the final spark. Catherine's face went stone cold. And when she spoke, her voice was soft but powerful. If I cannot handle tough questions... Craig, I have been through hundreds of interviews. I have answered invasive questions about my marriage, my health, my body, my age. Questions male actors are never asked. And I stayed patient because I know it comes with the territory. But what you are doing is not journalism. It is character destruction wearing a fake journalist hat. Kathie Lee looked around desperately, hoping for a sign to cut the broadcast. Catherine, please, sit down. We can talk calmly. It does not need to get ugly. It is already ugly, Kathie Lee. It got ugly when Craig used random gossip as an excuse for interrogation. You want to talk about hostile work environments? Let us talk about this set right now, where I was invited as a guest and treated like a target. Craig gave a cold laugh. Target? Catherine, these stories have been around for months. Are you saying you never heard one of them? Of course I have heard things, Catherine said. I hear things all the time. That is what happens when you are successful. When you are a woman who speaks up, people get jealous. They twist reality. They spread lies because they cannot handle a woman who knows her worth. Kathie Lee tried again. Catherine, nobody here is trying to pull you down. We invited you here because we admire you. This simply got out of control. Catherine looked at her with pity. You do not see it, do you? You do not see how subtle and dangerous this is. Craig brings up vague claims from nameless voices. And when I defend myself, suddenly I am the problem. Women are not allowed to defend themselves without being labeled difficult. Craig stepped closer, frustrated. Oh, please. Now you are making this about gender. Catherine, this has nothing to do with you being a woman. This is about your behavior. Multiple people who worked with you said you were demanding, that you made life hard on set, that you created fear. That is serious. Serious accusations that you cannot back up, Catherine shot back. Where are these people? Why will they not come forward? Because they know that if people see them, their story falls apart. It is easy to hide behind shadows, much harder to stand in the light. The audience sat frozen. Kathie Lee looked pale. Craig refused to back down. You want a name? I heard from a lighting guy who said you yelled at him in front of everyone because a shadow was not right. Is that professional? Catherine laughed bitterly. A lighting guy. You...